So in previous grammar units, we were focusing primarily on verbs that describe, locate, or define. And so we had the be verbs, patterns 1, 2, and 3. And then we also had the linking verbs, patterns 4 and 5. And so if you came from sort of a school of thought that, what is a verb? Something that, it describes either action or state of being. Well, that really sort of is how we subdivide these 10 patterns. On the left-hand column here, we really have the state of being sentence patterns. Where is something? What kind of thing is it? How can we understand it better? And then on the right-hand side, we have really the action. So we have simple action, and then we have action that affects something, and that's when we're talking about direct objects and indirect objects, and it affects it by giving a label. We'll talk about object complements. So right now, though, in exercise 4, what we want to focus on is those prepositional phrases, because oftentimes people have trouble with those with those prepositional phrases. Just trying to figure out, what do they modify? Okay, because prepositional phrases are modifiers, and so they can kind of be sprinkled all over the sentence. Most of the time, the adjectival prepositional phrases are going to be close to what they modify. Not always, but very often. They're generally to the right of the noun that they modify. The adverbial prepositional phrases, on the other hand, are much more flexible in terms of where they can be located in the sentence, because remember, the verb is kind of the heart of English language. And so, you always find the verb, then you find the subject that, the verb is kind of related to, and then you can find everything else kind of oriented around that verb. So because the verb is the heart, adverbial prepositional phrases, especially those that are modifying the verb, are going to be, can be anywhere. So in order to figure out where prepositions are in a sentence, we had suggested, and this should be part of your notes, that you can help to distinguish, are they adjectival or adverbial, by using some questions. So if you're the kind of person who really likes to condense your notes, one thing that I might suggest is taking those questions and putting them underneath of the sentence analysis process or near your prepositions list. So just sort of replacing them. So the adjective questions were which one, what kind, and whose. And I know there are some other adjective questions, how many, for example, but for the most part, prepositional phrases don't tend to answer that how many question. I know as soon as I say this, somebody's going to spend a long time and come up with one, but for our purposes, these 3 are going to be sufficient. And adverbial prepositional phrases, so ADV, make sure if you're using those abbreviations that it's easy with your handwriting to distinguish between your V's and your J's. So adverbs are going to be the when, where, how, and why modifiers in your sentence. Okay? So they get all the rest of the journalistic kind of who, what, when, where, how, why. They get all those kinds of questions. This is your who and your what for the most part. So adjective and adverb. So we want to distinguish and find them first. So use your prepositions list to help you, and then distinguish, are these adjectives or adverbs, and then what do they modify? That's what we're doing here in exercise 4. And so you can see this is kind of important, because oftentimes prepositional phrases can be sort of vague. If you shift them a little bit in your sentence, suddenly you've changed it. So in that first example, the form of the preposition is exactly the same, on the porch, on the porch. But because of its placement in the sentence, the meaning is different. So in sentence 1, the puppy on the porch is sleeping. Here, this prepositional phrase is telling us which puppy. It's the puppy on the porch and not the puppy in the bathtub. I don't know why it would be in the bathtub. Maybe you're giving it a bath. So the puppy on the porch is the one we're talking about. So that's an adjectival prepositional phrase that tells us, ADJ, sorry, which. The second sentence, the puppy is sleeping on the porch, that is a location, right? Where is the puppy sleeping, right? So that means that this prepositional phrase is an adverb. Answers that question, where, okay? So exact same preposition and prepositional phrase, just the location changes it from adjective to adverb, which is frustrating. So use those questions to kind of help you out. So when we look at our first sentence, and we're going to be doing today sentences 1 and 2, and then in class we'll do 3 and 4, which means, and don't forget about these, 5, 6, 7, and 8 will be your independent practice for exercise 4. So sentence 1, the rug in the dining room is dirty. Okay, so the rug in the dining room is dirty. So sometimes it helps if you find your verb, even though we're not charting these out. It'll help if you find your verb, because sometimes it can feel a lot like the verb should be a preposition, especially if it's a be verb and it's kind of short. So in this case, we only have one preposition, in. Okay, so in is our preposition. In what? In the dining room. So make sure you circle the whole thing. And when we look at our questions, in the dining room is telling us which rug. Okay. Some of you were like, no, Miss Warner, it's telling me where, right? It's dirty in the dining room. So here's the thing. If a prepositional phrase could possibly, like on the porch, answer an adverb question and an adjective question, the adjective always wins. Okay, if it's immediately after that noun, the adjective wins. Okay, it like, think of it as like gravity, right? Everything revolves around the sun, you know, including the moon, but Earth's gravity is strong enough that it sucks that. Okay, maybe that doesn't help for those of you who are not physics people, but maybe to some of you it'll make a little bit of sense there. Okay, so in this case we have an adjectival prepositional phrase, which rug. Okay, just for this video, I'm going to put down the question. You don't have to do that, but if you find that helpful, that may be sort of another way that you get that arrow kind of pointed in the right direction. On sunny days, we lounge on the lawn between classes. So you're going to notice rhythm to the prepositional phrases. Don't get seduced by that, because sometimes you can get tricked, and you know, a verb and a direct object can feel like a prepositional phrase. So lounge in this case is our verb. On is a preposition, and between is a preposition. So on what? On sunny days. On what? On the lawn. And between what? Between classes. Okay, so let's take a look at our first preposition, on sunny days. That really answers the question, when, right? So when is an adverb, so we'll draw our arrow to our verb. On the lawn is a where, so we'll draw our arrow to our verb. And then between classes, so you have to be very careful, because lawn is a noun, even though it's inside of that prepositional phrase. So you want to ask yourself, is between classes telling us which lawn, or is it telling us when we lounge? So in this case, it doesn't make sense. There's no like different lawn outside of classes than between classes. Like the lawn is the ground, it doesn't move in time. And so between classes is going to be modifying the verb. Okay, it's going to be telling us when again. So we've got where, and we've got when. Okay.